just feel
Can.
like there's a lot to talk about.
Thank you. I don't know why I can't record, but whoever just hit the button, thank you. Okay, so yeah, after this, we could talk about the feedback. Just want to go through the plan to get this to GA. There are only now 4 issues in GA issues. Uh, 2 of them have MRs created. The generate description should be merged today. The design
Donald,
one, yeah.
sorry, where are you looking? Because 2 issues were just created today, 2 new ones. I just want to make sure those are
Okay,
included.
I didn't see the other new one. I saw the one
What's
that
your
Bradley created
reference?
in the agenda.
The board. Oh, thank you. Agenda, not board.
Yeah, and I updated this last night, so or my last night.
Let's
Yeah,
go for
so
board.
yeah, there's 8 issues. One still sitting in 1710 and
Yeah,
seven in 1711.
the rest are administrative ones. Like there's the one for removing the toggle. Um,
Do you want to go through the board just because there's some that I just think I see 2 administrative ones.
what what board link do you use?
I just use the first one in the agenda at the top. Boards GA by milestone.
Okay. Oh, they changed the share window. Okay. Let's go through the open ones first. Um, this one doesn't have a milestone, but this is already merged, so we can let's put it in 1711, and then um, I'll close it after verification. This is the other one that I was talking about. Nick created an MR for it. Um, we're still trying to decide if that is the way we want to go forward, or if we want a back-end solution. Um, Anastasia, are you on? Yeah,
Yeah,
you are. Alexandru just replied in the MR. I don't know if you were pinged in it, but would you mind
yeah,
reviewing that note? Cool.
absolutely. I think I'll just have one more comment and I think we can move ahead today with it.
1711. We're not in
Sorry.
1710. Yeah. Would you mind hiding labels if you're not using them? They're very distracting.
Are they?
Thanks. Yeah, for me. It might just be a me thing. No, cancel
I don't
the
even know
little
where.
on the
Okay.
right next to it, on the left, rather. Right next to the control you selected. There
This
you
one?
go. Yeah, thanks so much. Oh, thank you.
Oh, our label's going to be gone forever for me until
No,
I
you just toggle it back.
I don't, I don't click on buttons. Uh, all right, this one I believe is waiting for verification.
Should we move it to 1711 since 1710's done?
We don't. I
Whatever you
think it
want.
merged in 1710 though. It just needs verified.
Yeah,
Could be wrong.
we'll follow up on that.
Okay.
It's the one we talked about. It's the one we talked about. Update issues documentation. I think the documentation was updated, but maybe not. So I'll follow up on this, but it can. Yeah, I don't think we want to add it to the big MR. Um, but yeah, I need to work with Marchin on a plan for the documentation there. Generate description was the other one I was talking about. There is an MR that should be merged by the end of today.
Should we change at risk to on track then?
Sure.
We definitely want that in before we merge the feature flag on for everybody on .com, right?
I'm not sure if that is a GA feature or not, but it is available even if it's not GA. It's if it is beta or experimental, it's available as beta or experimental on legacy issues. So short answer is yes. but it will be. It'll be in by the end of today. Pretty much all of these that are GA issues, or actually all of these that are GA issues, need to be in before we can merge that MR. This one I believe is verification. Yeah. Kushal, is this one different than the fixed
Yes.
designs redirecting?
New one.
Yeah, it's about the versions drop down for the designs. It was found just an hour ago, and I'm looking into it. It'll probably require a small GitLab UI fix before we are able to fix that. So yeah, shouldn't take more than a day, maybe.
Okay. It might be the same fix though.
I thought so originally, but the way versions drop down is on GitLab UI, it works very differently from other components, so it's not related.
Oh, okay. It doesn't just add the versions query param to the
No,
URL.
no, because the moment you click anywhere outside that drop down itself, or even when you select that drop down, the way it closes itself, it kind of propagates those changes to the drawer as well. And that's how drawer gets closed the moment you select anything from the drop down. And I first thought that it might be just as simple as adding that selector, but that's not the case here.
Okay. So you are looking at this today?
Yes.
Then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. This is the removing. This will be closed when the MR is merged. This is just the admin stuff for the release post. And this is the other new one that I was talking about that Heinrich created around the notifications. Notifications not showing up, or custom notifications not showing up. We did decide it was GA issues. Heinrich's looking at it now. So hopefully this will be merged in by the end of the day also. Questions on any of that?
Do we want to set up blocking MR relationships between the feature flag MR and all of these, just in case?
So no one accidentally merges it?
Yeah, you can set up like an arbitrary number of MRs to be blocking dependencies, and then you can't merge the one with until all the dependencies are merged.
Yeah, we can do that. Can you do that in the UI?
I think you can
Looks like
only
Do
do
I?
it in the UI.
You can only do it in the UI. Okay. I will set that up. It's a huge MR now, obviously. So I was talking to John about this yesterday. We need to make sure that we keep it up to date, so it won't be a huge, there won't be a huge amount of conflicts when we are able to merge it. So I'm thinking daily, we should probably rebase it. I'll do that as I have, if I have time, I'll do that. If not, I may contact one of the other engineers on this call to help with that rebase. So look out for pings from me. Okay. Any questions on that plan? I guess we can follow up after those MRs are merged, which I'm thinking by the end of the week. So maybe on Monday, we'll revisit whether we can or should start merging that MR.
Just a question. I know we don't have issues for it, but what was the decision on how comments are loading, like how like following a comment URL loads it in a different way now and it's really slow. Is that something we're planning on addressing before this merge?
Yeah, so it's being looked at right now. I don't know if it should be a blocker because we have the same issue with legacy issues. It's just more prominent with work items because of the speed of loading notes because it's slower, so it's more obvious when it jumps around and it's difficult to find what the actual link was to.
Yeah,
So-
so I guess my question is, should that work be GA or not? Was it decided?
I say no. We should continue working on it, but I don't think it
What
should
does UX
block.
think?
I mean, I think we've all sort of realized that like that pattern isn't great, and I think we've that the loading speed, whatever we can do to make that faster. I think if we have, if we have to get custom fields out, I don't really think there's like a choice, right? Like, I don't think there's anything we can strip out from this, right? Like we can't we can't take comments out or anything like that to do this. But yeah, if we are able to prioritize like making that faster, I think that is an area that would have definite payback.
So it's not a blocker is what you're saying, but we
I mean,
should work
I
on it?
don't think it can be. I think from a UX perspective, like no, it's not great. Like it's slow. It should be better. But
What about the jumping around?
um I know Simon said he was working on that. Is there other changes we should expect there, or because that affects more than just work items, right? That's a global thing.
Yeah, it is. It is a global
Is
thing,
it-
and he is working on it.
Is it in legacy?
It is. It's just not as
Oh,
noticeable because they load a lot faster. Because
okay. So what I'm,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, what I'm hearing is this is not a blocker, so we can move on. You'll continue to work in parallel, but we're not stopping
Yeah.
anything.
It's still a high priority. We just like if we're on the if we're like if it's a close decision, I prefer obviously to make things not blocking just because the longer we wait, the longer that MR gets stale and at risk for getting merged easily when it's ready.
What's the timeline for like soon?
For getting that MR merged
Yeah.
yesterday. Any day that's
I guess-
added is is a few hundred more commits that we need to test, and it's just changes to the system
Love a
as a
good
whole that we need
Love
to
a good rebase.
test.
Yeah, I'm just worried at how long this has been an issue, and like some people are really frustrated. Like I get some extra feedback on the side from design managers on it. Like the actual performance issue and the jumping, particularly the jumping around, like real frustration. So what I mean more is the timeline on getting that fixed. Like if we're saying
And
it's not a blocker, but it's still a priority, what does that mean?
So there's
Also, I just
a
want-
lot. Oh, you go, Amanda.
Sorry, I just froze. I just wanted to point out, and we're also polite complaining users, not losers. Because like we are GitLab people and we have more empathy for our product and we really feel the pain. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
customer users
Yeah.
are really going to feel the pain.
Yeah. And I would hate for this to be a reason for them to start off on the wrong foot with work items, like with issues, like in issues. Oh, new look, but oh my God, this thing that it's like, it's really, because it's like, I don't run into it often, but when I do, oh boy, is that frustrating.
Uh, yes, agree that we are polite complainers. We're also not typical users, I think, because the issue is made a lot worse seeming when there are a lot of comments on an issue like the feedback issue. Um, if there aren't a lot of comments, people aren't seeing people shouldn't be seeing the issue there. Alexandru, you raising your hand so politely.
Yeah, no, I guess I answered my own question. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'll lower it.
You made a statement that we are unusual in having long threads. Do we know that, or is that an assumption? Like, are there metrics that tell us that customers typically only like max out issues at 3 threads? Because if that's the case, then I'm totally with you. It's a non-issue, and that would make me feel a lot better.
Have we seen people complaining about the issue outside of like the feedback issue?
Do you
Like where
mean non-GitLab team members or GitLab
no,
team
GitLab
members?
team members
All
or-
over the place. Yeah. In random, in is it known, in just griping.
Yeah, but are they including the issues where they're seeing this problem?
No, I think it's anecdotal.
Yeah,
It's a Shakes fist kind of thing.
as someone who's like a staunch and vociferous advocate of like, we don't use things the same way our external users do on the read more, that it's like our users do use things differently. I think that that one is slightly different. I think that it's like our comments and threaded comments are actually like one of the things that's very special about our product. And I would also be very curious about metrics on thread counts if we have them, but I don't want to blindly assume that users don't use that and won't experience it. I'm not advocating it as a blocker. I just want to hear crisp definition around what we'll fix it soon means, because I feel like we're like 2 months into we'll fix it soon.
Like I only saw that Simon's working on this from his, I think, his stand-up maybe a day or two ago, but I'm not sure like which approach he's taken, like whether he wants to like make the jump to comment work or revert that behavior or what. But like last week, Alexandru had a suggestion for significantly reducing how long it takes to load notes, and these might be two separate approaches, right? So like, can we find out like what Simon's doing and then see if it maybe even doing the faster note load might also help, right?
Yes, we need to do both. Yeah, we need to do both, I think. He is working on the jumping, particularly around like especially if there are images above are images that are loaded behind the scenes. That forces the jumping to happen. And we fixed it in the past by once all of those images are loaded, then jumping the user to the spot. But the problem with that is that if a user scrolled while images were being loaded, then it messed up the calculation there. So he had been working on fixing that calculation. It still seems to be a little jumpy because of the speed of the background notes being loaded.
Alexandru, you got a rough estimate on how complex that issue is? I mean, small, middle, or large? Small, medium, or large?
It's not overly complex, but it does involve front end and back end changes. So from that perspective, it feels like a two releases thing if we need to preserve that compatibility thing, because it removes some of the permissions that, well, some of the fields for permission checking that the front end is using. It moves them to different fields. So from that perspective, we kind of need two releases, I think. But otherwise, those are not overly complicated things to implement.
Because we found the front end doesn't like we don't use those actual permissions, right?
No, we use them, but we don't need them to be loaded or checked at every single node, right? Or like every single node. We can check them more rarely, which reduces the time spent on doing those actions. So that's why like we can, if it was that those are not used, then it doesn't need any front end change. But I think those are used. We just can do them more rarely.
I know there's a short meeting and there's a couple more questions. Should we move on and take this async?
Yeah.
So just to be really clear, UX has confirmed this is not a blocker. Ideally, it would be really helpful to get just a crisp understanding of what the plan is and timing. And if you could get metrics, if you could pull like from the database an average and a max of threads per customer, that, or not per customer, but in general, that would also ease concerns as well. Moving on to number 3, I'm wondering what the plan is for tasks on boards. They're currently showing that was a little bit of an oopsie. We need to remove it. And how do we want to handle communication, if at all? We have at least one user who mentioned it in the feedback issue as a thank you so much.
Yeah, we should create an issue to remove it. I don't think we have one. And yeah, we'll remove it as soon as possible. It does require code change.
Okay, so that will be a GA blocker issue. Do we agree?
Yeah. Are we moving that to another, like we should just move it to another feature flag, right? So it's still like available to us, but just not tied to the releasing feature flag.
Yeah.
Question. Okay, I'm creating an issue and I'll link it and make it GA blocker. And then lastly, I wanted to know if, I haven't read all the feedback yet, but are there any themes that we're seeing with the feedback from users? Do we have any concerns about going GA given anything we're hearing? And this is primarily a UX question, but anybody really?
I mean, I think I'd say I'm happy that we have as much feedback as we do already. It tells us people are using it. It tells us that people are like considering what's working, what's not. I think for the most part, the only feedback that gives me pause are like some of the bugs. There's a few things where like there's one I was just reading about, like scope labels aren't working, and it's not really clear why or like what's happening. And that's one we haven't heard before. There's a number. I would say like the theme is probably more around the drawer, just like little things of like when I do this, the drawer doesn't react in the way I expect. I think some of those are known, but some of those are new. So I don't know how we want to necessarily prioritize all of those, but I haven't seen, and I'm not like caught up this morning. If there's looks like there's at least one or two new ones. I haven't seen much that's like wow, that's like huge, and I'm like super concerned. It's a lot of just little sort of like, yeah, we should close these bugs because we released it as beta. We kind of established some level of like, great, you provided feedback. Like we should do something about the things that are broken, like not working, um, before we say, here you go, it's done.
Yeah, and I guess we need to, because as of right now, we have what, 7 GA issues? We need to know of those, because you said it's fine as beta, but of those, which ones are not fine as GA, and we need to get it into the team as quickly as possible. And maybe none, maybe all of them are fine, but I just want to be on top of that sooner than later. I saw some themes with like history being retained when people are using the back button with the URL. There was multiple commenters on that, and the label behavior. They expected like being able to type the label when it's already selected, to remove it, and a couple of different label things. Again, I think small, but
Yeah, like the one that you're like the type and remove one is already being fixed. That's actually a GitLab UI
awesome.
book. So I talked to one of the engineers, they're fixing them. But like stuff like that's like, yeah, it's like as soon as we can fix it, that's great. But that one's like just kind of a nice to fix one. Yeah, the history one was one that I didn't quite understand, but I'm guessing it relates to the board and some of the routing stuff we're doing there. So I don't know if that's one
I
that.
can explain briefly what they mean. Whenever they open the drawer on the list or on the board, we add the show parameter to it in the URL. And whenever they click the button, sometimes it doesn't clear, sometimes it clears, and I guess that's what they are annoyed about. I'm not UX, but I wouldn't be considering this critical because you can always modify the URL manually to achieve the desired state, and back button, it's not something blocking, but again, that's up to UX. We will need to test what they mean, and also a little bit of feedback that I discussed with Amanda just before the meeting about the labels on boards. I don't even understand what user means because what they report is actually working on the boards.
Okay, so that's good news. It sounds like the themes we're hearing, they're not critical blockers. Nothing out of feedback is giving us too much concern.
Yeah, I mean we're on when did this Donald, when did this actually get enabled? Tuesday?
Yeah, the 18th.
Okay. So we're on like
10,000
day 2.
earlier.
I would just love to have this as a standing question every week until this thing goes live.
Yeah, if there are any new blockers from the feedback issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean ideally those get created like as we see them, right? Like let's not
Yeah.
don't wait for this. If it's you know, a obvious bug or engineering thing, like please like create it and put it in. I'd say like put it in GA issues if you're not sure. If it's just sort of like a, oh, this could be a little bit better, like that can be later. But if it's like this doesn't work, let's start with GA issues and then we can discuss from there. I'm out next week, but between like Nick and Caitlin, I think we can get everything else prioritized as needed if there's like UX questions.
All right, we're at time.
Sorry, I know we're out of time, but I wanted to ask, like, so we're talking about this MR that gets merged. When that MR gets merged, that's removing the toggle and effectively removing it out of beta. Like, I'm a little concerned about the idea that we're going to do that like 1 week after announcing a beta. That's like kind of a weird workflow of like we have a whole release post, hey, we're in beta, and then it's just like woof, it's gone, and we're in GA. Like, what advantage is there to doing it that way?
So doing it that way allows us the rest of the milestone to test on .com in the actual system that is going to be available for self-managed folks. Because if we wait till the end of the milestone and things come back after we merge that, we're not going to have we're going to have a lot less time to revert, make changes, get everything in before the end of the milestone.
Okay, I have concerns that we're kind of trading that risk for like active sort of user experience problems that we're like not really giving people, like we haven't really given people a chance to test the beta that we've announced and provided to them. Um, you know, it's been like 2 days and we're talking about potentially Monday removing that. Like that's not a beta phase, that's like a 4-day period. People might not
Yeah.
have even seen it.
Yeah. I think that's also super reasonable because it's like the number one thing with issues is that people use them differently than we do, and they're going to run into gotchas that we have not run into. And it's like, yes, it like leaves us less time, I guess, to fix it. But at the same time, it's like we have to have them discover it. And we would rather have them discover it in beta when they have the toggle, or would we rather have them discover it when they have no escape hatch?
Would another week, would that ease your concerns a little bit? If it was instead of Monday, it was Monday week, and that would still give us 2 weeks solid testing before of the system we're going to release.
Yeah, I would feel better, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I think 2 weeks. It's still pretty short for a beta, but it's at least like it feels a little bit more like a phase that was like, hey, we did a 2 week beta and now we're rolling it out. I think we'll have to kind of see as well, like, where we are in a week in terms of like what issues have been identified. If we find that we're every single day there's like new things we've never seen or heard before, that would give me a bit more pause. If it kind of hits a lull where we're like, yeah, it kind of feels like we've gotten most of what we're going to get during this period. And I don't think the expectation on my part at least is that we're going to get 100% right. Like we're going to find something weird after we go GA, but hopefully we've mitigated as much of that as possible. But yeah, that feels better at least.
I don't want to foist that decision on Donald and his team. Like it's just a suggestion, but because I know Donald, you have to now maintain merge conflicts each day until we're ready to merge that thing. But there probably is some compromise, like
Yeah,
somewhere.
and I think that's fine, and I'm okay with waiting a week. And yeah, so we can discuss where we're at in this meeting next week, and then we will plan for essentially a go no go decision at a week from today, a week from right now. Um, do want to just add one comment to that. Just remember that the beta phase that we're talking about uh, is for SaaS, is for .com. Self-managed still has that beta phase um, for an entire month, or as long as they're on that release. So, I mean, we of course should account for our SaaS customers, but we shouldn't base these phases 100% on what the timing is for. Like the idea of it being on SaaS should be that we can move a little bit quicker, we can deliver a little bit quicker. Um, and we can partially, of course, we want it to be everything to be high quality, but we also want to use it as an opportunity to fully test what large production self-managed instances are going to be like, if that makes sense.
Do we have any way to tell from Service Ping or something else how many self-managed customers have already upgraded to 1710? I assume it's not that many like that immediately upgrade, but there must be some.
You want to know how many people are on 1710 already?
For self-managed, I doubt we can tell how many
Yeah.
are like toggling or anything out of self-managed, but I'm just curious what number of like customers realistically could see this.
Yeah, I can get you that list.
Okay.
Not list of customers, but count. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. I gotta go. So that's the decision. Next Thursday, we'll decide go or no go. Cool. All right. Thanks all. Thanks for staying longer. Bye.